What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm Robert, this is James. We're gonna be installing a Zestek Racing Steering Wheel system for the Nissan R35 GTR. There's a few little different things. If you guys haven't heard about Zestek, we have another video up describing more of the different features and the customization possibilities that you can have with the Zestek wheel. We're gonna include a little bit of that, but I'm gonna hand it over to James to describe what we're gonna be doing today.
Yeah guys, so today we're basically just going to be doing a step-by-step install video for you guys. So for anybody who wants to install this wheel on their GTR, you guys will get step-by-step instructions on how to do it properly, how to do it efficiently. So stay tuned and we'll explain to you guys at the end kind of why this is so significant and how cool it is to have it in this car. So
there's a few things that are specific to the GTR because the paddle shifters are not rotating with the steering wheel. That requires Zestek to come up with their own technology to make the paddle shifters work for this racing steering wheel system. So stay tuned.
All right guys, so as is with every install, we're just gonna go ahead and start by taking the battery off. So the battery location on GTR is just back left of your engine bay. So we're gonna go ahead and pull this off and then get started on the steering wheel install. Now that we're in here, the first thing you're gonna do is remove the airbag. So in order to remove the airbag on these cars, they've got these plastic covers, which to be honest, this design is actually really nice. Compared to some of the other ones like the Toyota Supra are really hard to get the airbag out. This one makes it really easy. So you've got plastic ones here and here, both sides of the steering wheel, symmetrical, and you just go ahead and pop this little cover out. So underneath the cover, you've got a T30 bolt. There's two of them, right? Both on both sides. So one thing that is different about this T30 is it's one of these hollow sockets. So you'll have to have one of these in order to get these two bolts out. Yeah, so you can see there, it's a specific type of socket in order to remove it. But you can go ahead, you can probably see. I mean, so the one that we have is, I think this is a Matco socket. We also have, we have a bunch of snap-on sockets that are the same thing. Or, I mean, any hardware store you probably find them, like a Harbor Freight or something like that. But yeah, so you'll need that socket in order to remove the airbag. So you can see in here, that's your bolt right there that you're gonna have to remove. So you just take this, pretty simple. If I can do it without looking at it, which I cannot. Okay. And you'll just pull this bolt out. After you get them out, it's kind of hard to actually get them out of here. So I just leave it in there after you loosen it. Do the same thing on the other side. And then the airbag will just slide directly out towards you. Unless it's still stuck, which it's still stuck. All right guys, so after you get that T30 bolt out of there on both sides, the airbag will actually just slide forward and come out. Here you're gonna have two clips on the back. You just have these black clips that slide up. It'll come out. You might have to use a pick. I got lucky on that one with my hand, but I'll use a pick for the last one. Just get under the edge here. It should lift up like that and come out. So you'll take those two airbag connectors off, your airbag's removed. From there, you've got two more connectors in here. So Jay, you're gonna have to kind of come up here. But basically you can see inside here, you have this ground right here, which is just slides right off like that. And then you have the actual clock spring connector here, which has a clip all the way at the front. It's kind of hard to get to with your hand, so you might have to use a pick or you might get lucky. I am probably not going to get lucky. So there's this ground right here, which will just come off by hand, just pulling on it. It'll slide off like that. And then the clock spring connector here has a clip kind of up at the front. It's a little bit harder to get to. But like that, this will come out as well. And then after that, you just remove your center nut here, holding the wheel onto the car. And with that, the wheel itself will actually come off. You can take note here of this line that Nissan has in here. You've got this little line right here. This corresponds to the orientation of the steering wheel. So you know this is obviously going to be straight up and down. That's your point right there at the top that you're going to want to line up your hub with later. So just keep that mark in mind. It'll be helpful later when you put the actual Zestek wheel on. But with that, the airbag connectors will just slide through like this. Make sure you don't allow this to spin like multiple times in either direction. It's good to just keep it right where you had it when you took the wheel off. So this is off now. With that off, the next step is going to be to remove a lot of this plastic trim gets in the way. One thing I do want to note now that's really important that I already removed before we started this video is the paddle shifters. So One of the big things with the Zestek that makes it unique and makes it, I mean, really an upgrade for this car is that the paddle shifters are mounted to the steering wheel. Whereas on the OEM GTR wheel, the paddle shifters are actually mounted here to the steering column. So that makes it so, you know, when you're at 90 degrees, it's really hard to upshift or downshift because you've got your paddle shifters here and here, right, on the regular steering wheel. So those I already removed. I'll explain later in the video exactly how to do so, but normally they sit inside here, right about here like this. So just keep that in mind for later. I'll explain it when we get to it, but for now we're just gonna take this plastic trim off and give ourselves some more space just to get in here and finish up the wiring and the module stuff that they have for us to install. So to start with the plastic trim, same concept. There's 2 more plugs, little plastic caps here like there was on the steering wheel. So these are really easy. You might be able to get them with your hand, or it might be easier to get them with like a pick, but these just come out like this. Set them aside. Same on the other side as well. Just a plastic cover. After you get the covers out of the way, you can go ahead and remove these 2 Phillips head screws. I just use a screwdriver. It's a little bit easier. If you have like power tools, you can use those too, but just be careful you don't strip it because it's all plastic inserts that these sit in. So go ahead and take these out. So those 2 screws actually pass through 2 different plastic trim panels. So one of them is this side panel here. The other one is this top panel. So it actually holds both of them in place. So I always start with just removing this side one. You have to kind of, I mean, you got to finesse it a little bit, but not much. That comes out. Same on this side, same exact panel, just mirrored, comes out like that. When you get to this point, you can just lift this up and out of the way. Just gives you a little bit more space and room to work. Down here, now that you remove these side panels, it exposes 2 more Phillips head screws. So we'll remove these now to get this bottom panel out of the way. This one is a little bit deceptive because there's this screw, and then there's actually a 3rd screw down in the bottom that I'll show you guys in a second. I didn't see it initially and I was like, why isn't it coming off? And it's because it's got 1 more screw holding it in down here. So when you get to that point, you can see this moves a little bit, but it doesn't come off all the way. Down here, it's a little bit hard to see. You might be able to see it through here actually. You can see where my finger's touching that screw right there. So that's 1 more Phillips head that's actually holding this plastic panel in. So when you come under here, you can just feel it with your finger. You can see through this little window here. And just go ahead and loosen that. And then this whole trim piece will actually just fall out like that. So now that you've got all that out of the way, this is the part that I was talking about earlier with the paddle shifters. The paddle shifters are held in by 2 10mm. So one is a nut, one is an actual bolt here. One is black, and then there's a silver one as well. So these ones, when you go ahead and take these out, usually the paddle shifters hinge on this pin right here. So usually this is where this pin is. It sits inside of there like that. So what I did was I just used a small little press tool and I just pressed this pin out and removed the shifter itself, because when you reinstall the Zestek, you want to reuse the housing that held the paddle shifters because it is the actual mounting point for that lower Phillips head that we removed earlier. So keep that in mind. These will usually sit like this, right? You'll see paddle shifters in here and you'll have to physically remove this pin and then put them back in. So keep that in mind for anybody who started the video and saw they weren't there. That's why they weren't there. I had already removed them previously. So we'll go ahead and take the housing for the paddle shifters out now, which, like I said, is just this 10mm here and this black one here. It's the exact same on the other side as well. So this right here, these are your 2 right here. Black one goes here, this one goes here. As soon as you have those off, this will just slide out like this. You now get access to the connector for the paddle shifter. So this is just a press-in clip, comes out like that. And this is your housing. So like I said earlier, this pin right here is what I pressed out to remove the paddle shifters. And then I just set these aside to go back in after the paddle shifters were removed. So do that on this side. It's mirrored the same way on the other side as well. So this side, 2 10mm, same concept, they're the same colors, same location, all that's mirrored. So we'll remove that one. Here on the corner, same thing as the black one, just like over here. And you'll see, get that one out as well. So with that, you get access to your other paddle shifter wire, and you can go ahead and remove that. Once again, same concept. There's usually a pin here. I remove the pin, remove the paddle shifter, keep the housing for later. So now that we're to this point, we can actually start breaking into the stuff that we got from Zestek, which I've got right here. I'm gonna move your leg real quick. Pull all this stuff up here just so you guys can see it. So included with everything from Zestek, you get obviously the hub here. This is the front of the hub where the wheel is actually going to slide quick release mount onto. You get a couple different wiring harnesses here. This one, and then you get this module here, which this is what actually makes the paddle shifters on the steering wheel work. So this is like a piggyback per se. So this is what we're going to connect into our original paddle shifter wires, and we'll kind of explain from there how all of that works. So to start, the simplest thing, I always start with this one right here. So this is the clock spring wires. This is what we removed previously with the OEM connection from the OEM steering wheel. This guy just goes right into the clock spring like this, super easy. Clicks in like that. When we get to this point, we can actually go ahead and open up this, which I do not believe this is not included with the Zestek wheel. You'll have to buy this separately. This is the actual steering wheel hub. So this, if you look on here, you can see has cutouts for all the different pieces on the steering wheel. This here is for your clock spring connection. This one up here is for this dowel, and this one here is for this connector here, which this connector wasn't used. There's nothing plugged into this from the beginning. So you'll just slide your connector through here. Kind of takes a little bit to finesse it. You have to remember, like I said before, that that line on the actual spline on the steering shaft is what lines you up straight. So on this hub, there's a little dimple right here. So you want to line that straight line up with that dimple as close as you can get it. So right now we're pretty much there. And that's what'll make sure that the wheel is straight when it gets bolted in. So go ahead and start with that. Make sure this is on the inside, right? Because obviously you don't want it sitting on the outside. You can take these airbag connectors and put these in here as well. So now that we've done that, I'm gonna go ahead and put the little resistor plugs into the airbag sensors and wires, which are in here. So these ones, there's two of them. Doesn't matter which one you use and which connector, they both perform the same function. They just look like this. And these just slide in where the original prongs were from the airbag. So you just press those in like that, press your black clip in. Same thing with this one. Just goes in, those two there. Plus, press the clip in. These I just take and I kind of press them inside here just to keep them out of the way. This right here is going to get used for the actual hub from Zestek. These two will get connected, and then this will sit on here like that. So for now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and actually bolt this down. So provided with the hub is a nut and a locking washer. So the original size for this bolt's 19 millimeter. I don't know if this one is the same or not. I hadn't checked yet. So yeah, so this reuses the same OEM size. So 19 millimeter socket to put this on. Thread that on there and then tighten it with a wrench. All right, so now that the bolt is tight, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is going to be to bolt the face of our hub on here. So like I said before, we're just going to plug these wires together. Be really careful with these. There's only one way that this goes in, so you need to ensure that your prongs are sliding in to the connector the correct way. Like the connector can't go this direction, it can only go this direction. So just make sure that you're able to see your pins right here. When you put it in, you'll know that that's how you'll know that that is the correct orientation when you can see that. So after that's plugged in, I'd take your airbag wires and just get them inside here and out of the way. And then same thing with this, let's get them in here and out of the way. Remember that our dimple up here is telling us where the top of the steering wheel is. So according to our quick release here, we know that the round portion is going to be the top. So we need to make sure that it's oriented this way and not this way. So this is right side up. We'll go ahead and we're going to bolt this in with the bolts provided from Zestek. So they provide us these right here. There's two different sets. So they give you a set of long bolts, which are black, and then a set of short ones, which are silver. The silver ones are what we're going to be using because this hub is the short hub. They also provide another hub that's a little bit deeper but that's for a different system. So for this one, we're gonna be using the short ones, these silver ones. So we'll go ahead and install those real quick and tighten this all up. Okay, so while we're tightening this, one thing I didn't mention earlier is those airbag wires that we put back inside of the hub here, those don't get used anymore. The reason they sit in there is because the airbag obviously gets deleted with the Zestek wheel. So those small prong plugs that we pressed in there are resistors. So that'll just make it so you don't get some airbag light or anything like that. So those, they stay inside there. You don't have to worry about those from this point forward for the install. All right, guys, so after tightening up our hub and getting all of the wires and stuff situated here, we're gonna go ahead and install the paddle shifter module. So to start with this, like I said before, we've got this harness here, and then we've got the actual module with these 3 harnesses as well. So this white connector from the module is just gonna plug in here to this piggyback and clip in like that. Then you're gonna take this one here, and it's gonna go down back into the module again right here. So once again, always make sure the orientation of your wires is correct so that the pins actually meet. These connectors are really, really fragile, so just be really careful. The wires are really, really soft. So get it in there like that. Make sure you keep this out and visible, because this is going to be really important later, this black wire. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and we're going to try and put it kind of up inside here on this metal bracket. It's a little bit hard to see. You can kind of see from here, there's a bracket right here. It's easy just to set it up there. I'm going to zip tie it on there so that it doesn't move around. Basically, one other thing quickly, you've got 2 designations here, right? You've got minus, plus. This is corresponding to the paddle shifter, obviously. So left one being downshift, right being upshift. So left being minus, right being plus. You want to make sure you don't mess that up. It's pretty hard to, because these are different, completely different connectors. So shouldn't be something that gets messed up, but just keep that in mind. It's important. So minus to minus and then plus to plus, same concept. Just like that. Over here. Just like that. So now that these are connected, we'll go ahead and set this up on that metal shelf that I was talking about. I'm gonna pull this wire out to the right side underneath this connector. So on the paddle shifter module, the piggyback harness that we have on here has 1 stray wire, this black wire. This wire is gonna be important later because we're gonna wire it into the fuse box for like a 12-volt ignition power switch. So keep an eye on this for later. We're gonna use it later. For now, we're gonna set this up on the shelf that I was talking about in here on this bracket. And I'm gonna leave this wire hanging down through here just so I can access it later when I need to extend it to go all the way to the fuse box. So this is just going to slide up in here onto the shelf like that. We're gonna zip tie it in a second, and we're just gonna leave this down here accessible for later. All right, guys, so now that we've got the paddle shifter module here plugged in and we ran our wire back down there to the fuse box, we're gonna go ahead and just put the steering column plug in here, which comes off of the Zestek module here and replaces this wire, which was originally plugged into the steering column. So this guy's gonna go in here. Like that. And then you're gonna use the harness from the module to the OEM, just like that. So make sure you guys don't screw that up. Yeah, with that, we're gonna hide this, like tuck this away and put our panels back on, and then go ahead and move down to the fuse tap and figure out where we're gonna draw power from. All right, guys, so now that we tightened down both of the little paddle shifter housing pieces, which were those 2 10 mils that I talked about, we're gonna go ahead and just start putting all the plastic pieces back in. So this was our piece that had the 3 Phillips heads, one here, and the one in the bottom. So you just go ahead and slide this back up where it was, get it situated in there and lined up, and then we'll go ahead and start with the bottom one and then move to the 2 ones in the front. The one on the bottom, you're kind of just gonna have to feel for it until you get there, because it's, like I said before, it's in a little bit of a weird spot. And then with these ones, just remember, like I said earlier, they're plastic, so you don't need to do anything crazy to tighten them. Just get them snug in there. Make sure this isn't moving. After we do that one, we'll move on to those other 2 side pieces that we have. So that's these ones right here. And remember, this bolt hole here is a pass-through through the top trim piece as well. So push this down first, then slide these up in here, and then these will bolt together with 1 Phillips head bolt. So same goes for this one as well. Sometimes it takes a little bit of kind of playing with it to get it into the spot it's supposed to be in, but when you get to there, you can go ahead and put those 2 Phillips head screws back in. Yeah, just get that snug, and then go ahead and get this one back in as well. Now that we're here, we're gonna go ahead and just put those 2 plastic little covers back in. So these literally just press in super easy, like that. So now that we've got all of this reassembled, everything's tight, all our wires are connected with the exception of our ignition wire that we extended down there. We can go ahead and put the cover on, which comes with the hub. I removed this earlier off of this metal piece, so this actually just slides back over this now and sits on there like that. I don't know if you need to push it all the way. I think you can kind of push it as far as you'd like to. Yeah, I think it'll go farther actually. Yeah, there you go. So you'll feel it kind of bottoms out. It has like a lip down there that it'll bottom out on. Yeah, so with that on there, pretty much all of this is taken care of. So now we're going to run our ignition to a fuse tap, which just looks like this. I'll explain later exactly which fuse we removed in order to make this work. But yeah, basically 15 amp fuse comes out, fuse tap goes here. Our original fuse goes into fuse tab like that, and then yeah, we'll kind of explain all of that here in a second. All right guys, so with the wire tap that we ran down through the column back down there to the footwell module, this is the cover that comes off. So this is just a diagram of kind of what you're looking at with which fuses pertain to which things. So the one that we used here is this 10A electrical parts ignition switch. So you guys can use your fuse tap to this. There's a few others that might work, but this is the one we recommend using, is this one. So as soon as you do that, then your wheels got power and everything works. All right guys, so now that everything's plugged in, we're just gonna go ahead and start it and kind of moment of truth, see if everything works, which it should, and it does. So these colors are obviously changeable, so if you wanted to change it to something different, they won't always be these colors. All these functions you can map to different things. So for this customer, he has the horn as this button here, and other things mapped to other different OEM functions regarding like the dashboard and whatnot with the car. So yeah, it was pretty successful install. If you guys have any questions, hit us up in the comments, and yeah, we'll hit you on the next one.